My most vivid impression of the entire agitated scene was that his head had been almost destroyed. The face was intact but very swollen, and it was obvious that he had had a massive wound to his head.
We decided that the president was dead, and Dr. Clark, the chairman of neurosurgery, had come in the meantime, and he had walked up to the head of the patient and looked inside at the wound and shook his head.
President John F. Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time today here in Dallas. He died of a gunshot wound in the brain. Dr. Berkeley told me it's a simple matter, Tom, of a bullet right through the head.
I could see that he had a large, about 7-centimeter opening in the right occipital-parietal area. A considerable portion of the brain was missing there, and the occipital cortex, the back portion of the brain, was lying down near the opening of the wound, and blood was trickling out.
Almost a fifth or perhaps even a quarter of the right back part of the head in this area here had been blasted out, along with probably most of the brain tissue in that area. It would be a jagged wound that involved the half of the right side of the back of the head. My initial impression was that it probably was an exit wound, so it was a very large wound.
This is not what the official autopsy photographs show. Hidden away for a quarter of a century, they revealed the back of the head intact.
The autopsy photographs show a massive wound, but it's in the right temporal area and into the parietal area, which is behind it, between the two. It is inconceivable to me that every single one of the witnesses who saw the president's head could be wrong, and specifically wrong, about this particular wound. They describe an avulsed, exploded open wound in the rear of the head. In the autopsy photograph, you see a small, neat wound of entrance. It's obvious to me that those photographs have been faked.
When I first saw the pictures of the president's body, so-called wounds, what really struck me was, especially the head wound, they showed a nice little neat round bullet hole in the back of his head. Well, actually what I saw was the whole side of his head blown off. It was gone. I don't know where those things came from, but they're totally wrong. Every one of them.
In 1964, the Warren Commission dealt with this evidence by not looking at it. It was made available to them. They felt if they looked at it, they would have to deal with it and publish it. So they didn't deal with it. In 1977, around that time frame, the House Assassinations Committee had the photographs. What they did with it was even less excusable. They had the photographs, they had the questions that were brought to them about the photographs, and they did not allow the Dallas doctors, the most important witnesses in this particular area of the evidence, to even view them. And the reason seems quite clear. If they have the best eyewitnesses looking at the photographs saying that's not the condition in the president's head, then you not only have a conspiracy to kill the president, but absolute proof of the conspiracy to cover it up after the fact, because the only people who had the photographs were the government. If somebody faked those photographs, it was someone within the government, someone who had access.
When the President Kennedy files came out,
controversies, cover-ups, what's inside the Kennedy files, and could their release cause chaos across America? Must see insight on the story.
we know that Donald Trump suppressed those, because what that reveals is that the driver actually shot President Kennedy and he worked for the Secret Service. And so the rot that's in America is in its very core. And so there's another example of the corrupt international media not telling us the truth about something, this time the Kennedy assassination.
I'd like some legal representation. These police officers have not allowed me to have any. I don't know what this is all about. Did you shoot the president? I didn't shoot anybody, sir. I haven't been told what I'm here for. You have a lawyer? No, sir, I don't.
Yes, sir. Has made a statement. He has not confessed. He has made no statement. Charges of murder have been accepted against him.
I was then assigned to go directly to the Dallas police station, and I, in effect, became a police reporter for the first 2 or 3 days.
This crowd here is waiting to see Oswald in the event he is brought in for further interrogation.
Come on, man. No, they're taking me in because of the fact that I live in the Soviet Union. I'm just a patsy.
The justice of the peace, this investigation has been...
Suspects, or is this the man you believe killed President Kennedy?
I think we have the right man. We want to say this, that this investigation has been carried on jointly by the FBI, the Secret Service, the Rangers, and the Dallas Police Department. Captain Fritz has been in charge.
I really don't know what the situation is about. Nobody has told me anything except that I'm accused of murdering a policeman. I know nothing more than that, and I do request someone to come forward to give me a legal assistance.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
You have been.
Nobody said what?
Sir?
You have been.
Nobody said what? Okay, we ain't here. Okay.
What did you do in Russia?
A policeman hit me.
Madness and hate erupt anew in Dallas as President Kennedy's accused assassin is shot down himself during a jail transfer. There's an ominous symbol in Lee Harvey Oswald's murder weapon as he is taken to the city jail basement where an armored car is to move him to a maximum security cell. Oswald walks his last mile. His assailant moves in from the right.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot.
Now, from another camera, the motion is slowed. The murderer moves in, and here is the shame of all America as Jack Rubenstein takes the law unto himself. The dying Oswald is rushed to the same hospital where President Kennedy died. Doctors work to save his life. But 48 hours and 7 minutes after the president's death, his accused slayer is dead.
Everything pertaining to what's happening has never come to the surface. The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. The people that have so much to gain and have such a material motive for putting me in the position I'm in will never let the true facts come above board to the world.
Now these people are in very high positions, Jack?
Yes.
About Adelaide Stevens, if he was vice president, there would never have been an assassination of our beloved President Kennedy. Would you explain what's wrong? Well, the answer is the man in office now. Stevens, if he was vice president, there would never have been an assassination of our beloved President Kennedy. Would you explain what's wrong? Well, the answer is the man in office now.
Jack Ruby was dying or getting sick, I believe it was 1967 or 69, he reached up and put a little note in your hand, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he sure did. He sure did. He and Melvin Bella, I believe, were together at the time, and he was ambulatory. He could walk then. He was still in pretty good shape, but he was sweating an awful lot, and his hand was wet.
Real wet.
Where he had this note palmed in his hand, and when he shook hands with me, I knew he wanted me to read a note, and sure enough, it was a letter that Jack wrote saying that it was a conspiracy. And
that his motive was to silence Oswald.
His motive was to silence Oswald.
Yes.
Hey, Edgar Hoover on 2192.
Are you familiar with this proposed group that they're trying to put together on this study of your report?
So I haven't heard of that. I've seen the reports on the Senate investigating committee that they've been talking about.
I want to get by just with your file and your report.
It would be very, very bad to have a rash of investigations.
Well, the only way we can stop them is probably to appoint a high level one to evaluate your report.
Yeah.
And to put somebody that's pretty good on it from that I could select and tell the House and Senate not to go ahead with the investigation.
Exhibit 399. To many, it is known as the pristine bullet. Over the last 40 years, no part of the Warren Commission's 26-volume report has been scrutinized and criticized more than the single bullet theory and how Arlen Specter devised it.
A critical factor is where the bullet entered on the president's body, and sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Senator Arlen Specter was a junior counsel for the Warren Commission.
In terms of the single bullet theory, that was what the commission concluded at the end, but that was not the first theory that the commission was working with. Is that right?
Well, the first speculation was from the FBI and Secret Service reports that there were 3 bullets, and the first one hit the president in the back of the neck, and the second one hit the governor, and the third one hit the president in the back of the head.
That's not my report.
FBI agent Francis O'Neill took notes at the autopsy and says investigators were mistaken from the very beginning.
My report said nothing about the first one hitting him in the neck whatsoever. I don't know where he got that from.
Agent O'Neill's report states that the first bullet wound to the president struck below the shoulder and 2 inches to the right of the spinal column. The autopsy photo confirms this, but Specter didn't get to see the photos. He had to use drawings prepared under the direction of Commander Humes 4 months after the autopsy. Surprisingly, even Humes didn't get to see the photographs. The drawings were based on his memory.
Any investigator would want to see the photos and the x-rays, and the commission did not have them out of deference to the Kennedy family, but I thought that was a major mistake.
Prophetically, in April of 1964, Specter wrote this memo, quote, "Someday someone may compare the films with the artist's drawings and find a significant error."
The first thing that came to me was the audio tape, which he sent to me in January of 2004. He didn't call me and let me know that he was sending it, but one day I just checked my mail, to pick up my mail, and there was a package from my father. There was no explanation of what was on this tape, so I just put the tape in my cassette recorder, and in it he outlines his knowledge of the conspiracy, which was codenamed The Big Event.
I was a bench warmer on it, and I had a reputation for honesty. I think it's essential to refocus on what this information that I've been providing you, and you alone, by the way, consists of. What is important in the story is that we've backtracked the chain of command up through Cordmeyer and laying the doings at the doorstep of LBJ.
He was sick, and he wrote this out, as you can see by the handwriting, with great difficulty. It's a little hard to read some of it, but at the top here we have the initials LBJ, which of course was a vice president at the time. Below this we have Cordmeyer, who was a CIA officer. Below that we have named David Morales, who was also a CIA, I don't know if he was official CIA, but I'm certainly heard his name before in relation to contract work that he did with the CIA. I think he was a pretty serious guy capable of doing just about anything. And to the right, the next name is Bill Harvey, who was a very flamboyant CIA man, carried around a couple pistols in his belt at all times, was a heavy drinker. And below at the bottom it says French gunman, grassy knoll.
I mean, you've said now that David Phillips apparently met with Oswald in Mexico City before the assassination. You've said that Bill Harvey may very well have recruited a French or Corsican gunman to shoot. And you've also said that Cord Meyer had a motive in that his wife was having an affair with John F. Kennedy.
I heard from Frank that LBJ had designated Cord Meyer Jr. to undertake a larger organization while keeping it totally secret.
Hunt sued Spotlight magazine for slander and had his day in court. Hunt's explanation of where he was on the day that Kennedy was murdered was a disaster of impossible lies. Over the years, Hunt has given 5 different explanations of where he was on the day that Kennedy was murdered, and the jury found him guilty of the president's murder when they found the magazine innocent of slander.